Let's be real. Getting great grades and actually learning stuff doesn't happen because of some last-minute caffeine-fueled panic session. Nope, it comes from what you do consistently, day in and day out. Today, we're going to move way beyond those simple study hacks and talk about building habits that are not just effective, but resilient. So how do we build study habits that can actually survive the chaos of real life? Let's dive in. Okay, does this sound familiar to you? You start a new study plan, you're totally motivated, the schedule is perfect, it's color-coded, you're all in. But then, life happens. And a week later, that perfect plan is just a distant memory. Look, if this has happened to you, it's not because you're lazy or broken. It's a sign that we need to understand the engine that's running under the hood. You see, to fix the problem, you first have to understand the machine. The science of how our habits actually work in our brains is, believe it or not, surprisingly simple. And it all comes down to one really powerful pattern. And that pattern is called the habit loop. Charles Duhigg, a reporter for the New York Times, really broke this down for everyone. It's this neurological loop that governs every single habit you have, from brushing your teeth in the morning to mindlessly checking your phone. It is the automatic engine that drives our behavior. The loop itself is incredibly simple. It's just 3 parts. First up, you've got the cue. That's the trigger that tells your brain, okay, time to go on autopilot. It could be a time of day, a place, even a feeling. Next is the routine. That's the habit itself, the action you take. And finally, number 3 is the reward. That's the good feeling you get that tells your brain, hey, let's do that again. Now, here's the secret sauce. This is the crucial part. Over time, your brain starts to anticipate the reward the second it sees the cue. And as Duhigg says, this creates a neurological craving. That craving, right there, that's the real force that powers the whole habit loop. It's what makes our habits so automatic and sometimes so hard to break. So, okay, we understand the engine now. We get the science. How do we actually start building a better one? Well, this is where we get to design our blueprint for success. And listen, this isn't about just gritting your teeth and using willpower. It's about engineering a system that works with your brain's natural tendencies, not against them. A huge part of that system is choosing the right kind of routine. So many of us fall into the trap of passive learning. Just rereading your notes or highlighting every other sentence. It feels productive, but the research is super clear. It's one of the least effective ways to learn. What you need is active learning. That's where you force your brain to actually retrieve the information, which is what builds strong memories. So what does this active learning stuff actually look like? Here are 4 powerhouse techniques you can start using literally today. Every single one of them forces you to do something with the information, and that's how you make it stick. My personal favorite? Trying to explain a concept out loud to an empty room. Trust me, it immediately shows you what you don't really know. And hey, remember the first part of that habit loop, the cue? Your physical environment is one of the most powerful cues you have. When you create a dedicated, distraction-free study space, you're sending a massive signal to your brain that it's time to focus. This isn't just a nice little tip, it's a critical part of engineering a successful study habit. Okay, so you've got the right kind of routine, active learning, and you've set up the right environment as your cue. But a good intention isn't a plan. To make this stuff actually happen, you need a way to turn those good intentions into concrete, actionable goals. And that's where the SMART Goals framework comes in. It's just an amazing tool for taking a fuzzy idea and turning it into something your brain can actually grab onto and execute. It forces you to get crystal clear on exactly what you're trying to do and how you'll know when you've done it. Let's make this super practical. Look at this example. I want to do better in math. I mean, that's a nice wish, but it's not a goal. It's not specific, you can't measure it, there's no timeline. But look at the SMART goal on the right. That is a complete roadmap. It tells you exactly what to do, how to measure your success, and when you need to do it. See the difference? It's night and day. All right, now we're going to talk about what might be the single most important part of this entire explainer. We've designed this great system, but what happens when you have an off day? What happens when you mess up? Because you will. I will. We all will. Perfection is not the goal here. Resilience is. So take a look at this number, 63%. What do you think that represents? It's the percentage of people who are more likely to stop doing something. And here's the answer. Psychologists call it the what the hell effect. Isn't that great?
There was a study in 2020 that found people who were tracking their habits were a whopping 63% more likely to just abandon them completely after missing just one day. That feeling of breaking a perfect streak is so discouraging that we just throw our hands up and give up.
So how in the world do we fight this? Well, our first strategy is so simple, but it is so powerful. The 2-day rule. You give yourself permission to be human. You can miss one day. The real rule, the one you never ever break, is this. You never miss 2 days in a row. It builds forgiveness right into your system.
The second strategy is all about reframing how you think about it. Instead of tying your success to a perfect performance, I broke my streak, you tie it to your identity. A single slip-up doesn't change who you are. You're not a failure. You are a student. You are a learner. This was just a temporary interruption. That's all.
The author James Clear just puts this perfectly. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. Anyone can have an off day. That's the accident. But missing that second day, that's where the real danger is. That's how you accidentally start a new habit of not studying. The key is to get back on track immediately.
So, let's put it all together. Here is your blueprint for a study system that can actually last. First, you've got to understand the cue routine reward loop that's driving your behavior. Second, design an active, focused study system around that knowledge. Third, turn your good intentions into real, actionable plans with SMART goals. And finally, and this is so important, plan for failure by adopting that never miss twice rule.
And really, that's the key takeaway. We get so trapped by this idea of perfection. But the most successful people, they're not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who have the best systems for bouncing back when they do. So I'll just leave you with this question. What if you stopped asking, how can I be perfect, and started asking, how can my system be resilient?